Hey guys, today I am at what appears to be an old 1930s gas station here in Ridgeland, South Carolina, but it's actually a museum for cultural heritage. So I'm gonna take you inside, and today you're gonna get to learn a lot about the South Carolina Lowcountry and all the people, places, and culture that make it so special. Let's get after it. Do you want to know everything there is to know about the South Carolina Lowcountry, whether it's Bluffton, Beaufort, Hilton Head Island, or Jasper County? Then subscribe below and tap that bell for notifications so you'll be the first to know about everything happening here. My name is David Simcox, host of the channel and a local real estate agent. I get calls and emails every day from people like you and you and you looking to make their move here, and I absolutely love it. So whether you're moving in 3 days, 3 months, or even 3 years, give me a call, send me an email, shoot me a text, or even book a Zoom call, all in the description below, so I can help you find your Lowcountry lifestyle. Now, again, as I said, we are exploring some culture today. We are at the Morris Center, and I've got a special treat for you. I am going to interview one of the directors here, and we've got all kinds of great information to share with you about the Lowcountry and all kinds of cultural information. So stay tuned, we're jumping in right now. All right, so I am here with Kaylee. And Kaylee, what is your job title here?
I am the Director of Exhibits and Programs here at the Morris Center. So the Morris Center for Lowcountry Heritage opened in 2015, right here in downtown Ridgeland, South Carolina. We're right here on the corner of Main Street and Highway 17. So we are a history/cultural museum, and also a place for people in the community to come together and learn more about where they live, and learn more about the people here in the area. And we love to celebrate artists and authors and tell a little bit about our local story. So we do a little bit of everything. So we're actually on the historic register. And so we have a little plaque up there. We've been here since, the building itself has been here since 1937. Okay. So the museum, whenever the museum opened in 2015, we wanted to be able to have this be our centerpiece for the museum, because our founder, Danny Morris, who you'll see over there, his portrait's hanging, he actually owned gas stations. Oh. And so it's a way to pay homage to him and his legacy. He was very much passionate about history and culture of the region where he grew up. So it was, a nice tie-in to him and his passions. Grew up in Tillman, which is just up the road. But Danny owned a lot of businesses around Jasper County, and especially a lot of businesses here in the downtown area. We are actually 3 historic buildings put together. So Danny did not own the gas station, but he owned the 2 other buildings that are comprised here at the museum. And
he was also very much into antiques, correct?
Yes.
And so he had a love for historical items,
yes,
and the history of the Lowcountry. And this was really his legacy, to preserve the culture of the Lowcountry.
Yes, and that's what we've done since the museum opened in 2015. Through exhibits, we do a lot of rotating exhibits. First exhibit that we have is a traveling exhibit that we have borrowed from the Native American Studies Center in Lancaster, South Carolina. This is the language of clay, and this is talking about the Catawba Indian pottery and their oral traditions. So for folks who don't know anything about the Catawba, they are a Native American tribe that is located in the Piedmont part of South Carolina. Okay. They're the only federally recognized tribe in South Carolina, and they have this art form that is the oldest continuous traditional art form in North America. So look around in our cases. We have about 30 pieces of the pottery in this exhibit. You'll notice that there's a lot of very unique qualities to Catawba pottery. Most people are always drawn to the color, like the colors that you see in the clay. These are natural to the clay itself. Okay. There are clay pits that are along the Catawba River up in the area close to Rock Hill, South Carolina, where they dig their clay, and no color has been added to it. So whenever you see this variation in color, this all comes from the firing process. So you will notice if you look at the labels that we have here, these pieces range from the 1900s or the 1800s all the way up to current. Okay. So when I said it was a continuous art form, they have always been making this pottery. So this exhibit's going to be up until the end of next June 2025. Come on through. We're gonna exit the St. Clair gas station and we're gonna walk over our little bridge that we have here. And this building, actually, Danny did own this building. This he ran as one of his antique stores. So in this space, we have 2 exhibits. Well, really 3, like 2.5. But this is the Battle of Honey Hill exhibit that we have. And this is our permanent exhibit. So the museum, you'll notice here, our centerpiece of this exhibit is our diorama. And it has been here since the museum opened.
Diorama means?
Like a scene, like a modeled scene.
Okay.
So
let me
take a look at it.
So this represents the Battle of Honey Hill. Is that correct?
Yes.
And how far away was this battle from where we're at right now?
It was about 3 miles.
Okay.
So very close by.
I've seen the signs on the side of the road. It looks like they're doing some excavating, or maybe they're getting ready to improve that space or do something. Yes,
it's been an ongoing process, but there's been a lot of momentum recently made. There is a Friends of Honey Hill group that is working tirelessly to get the site able to have more visitors go to it. Okay. They currently do private tours if you contact them, but we are one of their partners actually too. They have their meetings here somewhat regularly, and we are excited about the possibilities of are finally coming to fruition to have this place be accessible to the public to go and actually see it. It was a Confederate victory. Okay. So a little bit of background quickly about this battle. So for folks who are familiar with Sherman's March to the Sea that happened, towards the end of the war, there were this was part of that campaign. So you'll notice here in the diorama, especially when you're looking at where the Confederates are set up, they have these earthworks where they have dug out kind of almost like these areas here, almost similar to like trenches. And these were actually dug in earlier in the war in 1861. Oh, wow. And so with that being said, the Confederates, knew that the railroad was going to be a target. It wasn't, like unknown to these people that the railroads were going to be targeted. Right. So they built these because the road at the time that would have to take you to Gopher Hill, it wasn't called Ridgeland back then, right, where the train tracks and stations were, they would have had to literally march over this hill that exists. It's called Honey Hill. And so that was why these earthworks were already there. So,
this town, before it was called Ridgeland, was called Gopher Hill. Can you tell us why? Do you know why?
Well, it wasn't like a town as like what we think about. Like the bigger town was actually Granville. So if you're familiar at all where like the Holy Trinity Church is, that was a part of Granville. And Granville was more of like the small kind of village where a lot of the plantation owners had like summer homes and different things like that. So that was kind of like the town. Whereas where Gopher Hill was more of like kind of where the railroad was being established and stuff like that. So it looked nothing like it did now. So, but of course, for folks who don't know, Gopher Hill is named for the gopher tortoises that can be found in this area.
So not gophers, but actually gopher tortoises
yes.
In the sand.
And they still live, you still find gopher tortoises around.
That's awesome.
Yeah, in this area.
Cool. So the rest of this information on the walls behind you just talks about the timeline of the Civil War and the Battle of Honey Hill. Yeah,
specifically, it gives you a good, I think, foundation for you to see the events that were happening that led to the war, but then also the events that kind of played a role in the battle itself. Now, there's a lot of historical significance around this battle, so most people, maybe not as familiar with the Black soldier involvement at the end of the Civil War. This particular battle had a lot of Black soldier involvement. Okay. Almost, Union side. Yes, yeah. Almost half of the Union forces at this battle were Black soldiers. Wow. Yes, wow, and so it tells a little bit about that story. So that we have a timeline, but we in 2021 expanded the exhibit to the way it looks now, and we added other cases with more artifacts that were discovered through archaeology at the site.
So there's been a lot of, historically from the Revolutionary War all the way through the Civil War, there's been a lot of troop movement through this area. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
I believe Bees Creek Road was a military route for a long time. So there's all kinds of artifacts that are found around there. And what are some of these artifacts that are in this case?
We have things like, of course, like bayonets, and we have like a ramrod here. I always find this really fascinating, especially whenever we're showing this to the students, when you talk to them about how when you have like bullet like fragments that get lodged in old trees. Oh, wow. And like over time that like the lead and stuff in the bullets will like leak out, and it almost kind of like preserves the wood. So you'll see these pieces, like especially this one right here, where you can see the bullet is like encased within this piece of wood. Just to kind of finish up, we have some great like first person accounts from the battle on this side, as well as some profiles on the Medal of Honor recipients from the battle. And so this is our kind of smaller exhibit. This is kind of a semi-permanent display for the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War. Okay. So folks who are maybe not familiar with the South Carolina 250, it's a commission that is tasked all 46 counties in South Carolina to celebrate the stories and even like uncover untold stories about the Revolution here in South Carolina. Okay. I think most people who don't already know this are surprised to learn that more battles and skirmishes happened in South Carolina than any of the other 13 colonies.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so a couple of the key figures here, Thomas Hayward, he was a signer of the Declaration of Independence, and he's actually buried out by Cooler's grocery store.
Yes.
Or Cooler's gas station, which
yes.
has been around forever.
Mm-hmm.
And the Old Sheldon Church is part of the Byrne plantation, I believe.
Probably. I mean,
the
I'm not
founder of that, I think, is buried out
there. So we worked with the South Carolina 250 to put together this display. It was really done by the commission, and then we said we would be a site here to at least highlight some of the people and places that are connected to the Revolution here in the Lowcountry. Okay. This was put up at the end of 2022, okay. So we've had it for about a year, and what's been great is it's a good way for the different committees for each county to kind of springboard off of, and they're all doing their own work as far as programming and research and things like that. So for example, here in Jasper County, the Jasper County's committee is doing a lot around the Thomas Hayward site. Okay. Because not only is he buried there, that was Old House Plantation, where his family owned that plantation. And so they're able to tell that story as well and talk about the enslaved that were there and talk about the fact that it was a rice plantation, and all these different stories that surround that site can be told now. And they're working on making sure that we can get more interpretation out at those sites.
That's so wild. I mean, we've got like Old House Road is still here and it's still called Old House Road, but mm-hmm. a lot of people don't realize the names of the roads and how they tie back to the heritage. And,
yes.
Even like Thomas Hayward, there's all kinds of things named after him around here, and
mm-hmm.
a lot of people don't realize who he is or the role that he played. So
yeah, and there's it's interesting because there's so much history within that family, because you could talk about the loyalists versus the patriots, because his father was a loyalist and he was a patriot, and there's like so much that you can uncover and discover with that.
And there's still a lot of those family members over in Bluffton that still carry that name. There's actually mm-hmm. a real estate agent that works at our firm that's like, his name is Tommy Hayward the 10th or whatever, and he's a descendant of the Thomas Hayward guys. So.
Yeah, we have our lovely little replica bust here that is modeled after the same one that's found on the top of his gravesite.
Okay. Yeah, I've been out there. It's really a neat place to go check out.
Yeah, the library is going through renovations, and so they loaned us the bust for now, and we like having him here. So yeah, we have other stories about Jim Capers, which is one of our African American Revolutionary stories. He was born in South Carolina, was a drummer during the war. Okay. So it's been really interesting to tell those stories because, especially with students, we are actually starting a field trip program. We just had a pilot season this past spring for our fourth graders here in our area to come and learn about local and state history. And so they've really been, interested in learning more about how was battle different in these time periods with Revolutionary War and Civil War, and why were drums useful and things like that.
Why were drums useful?
Well, it's a way to, of course, signal different things and stuff that's going on. There's a lot of commotion and stuff that happens on the battlefield. So, drums were used as a way of communication.
It's almost like a baseball coach giving signals to his players in a noisy stadium. Wow.
Yeah.
Super cool. I didn't know that. And then there's a little bit of information down here about the Bull.
The Bull family, which is another Loyalist family.
Which actually I just went out and filmed a couple of weeks ago out of Bull Plantation, Bull Point Plantation, and did a whole thing on that. And went out to Sheldon Earth Green. So
yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, and so then this is our other exhibit space that kind of transitions. So for example, Battle of Honey Hill is always here. We're going to have this up for the foreseeable future, the Discover SC Revolution, but with the other two spaces, they rotate.
Okay.
So currently we have Sandy Islanders, the people of the land. That's going to be on view until January 3rd.
Okay.
So up until about the end of this year, beginning of next year. So this one is on loan from the McKissick Museum, which is, for folks who don't know, is a part of the University of South Carolina.
Okay.
And so we are going to have a program on September 24th, but that with the actual photographer who took these pictures. So if you start walking through the space, you'll notice that this is comprised of photographs of people. And these people either live on Sandy Island or around Sandy Island. Now, Sandy Island is up in Georgetown County, South Carolina. If most people have heard of Brook Green Gardens, it's a sculpture garden up in Georgetown County.
Okay.
And it was a former plantation. Sandy Island's very close to that. It's kind of like right across the water. What's interesting about Sandy Island, though, as geographically speaking, is many people are familiar with the sea islands of this area, of South Carolina, Georgia, those, places like Defusky and St. Helena. And these are just ones here in like the Beaufort area, Ladies Island. As opposed to being a sea island, Sandy Island is a island between two rivers.
Oh, wow.
So it's between, the Waccamaw and Petey rivers.
And folks still live out there? Oh my God, that's awesome. So it's only accessible by boat?
Yes.
That's fascinating. Are they open to folks coming out?
So they have it. There is a company that runs tours out there.
Okay.
I think one of our docents actually went and took a tour recently. And I think from what she learned is there's about less than 40 people who live on the island now.
That is so
it used to be larger. It, of course, was former plantation land as well. What happened, there was a gentleman, Mr. Washington, who basically came back after, having his freedom. He came back and settled on Sandy Island, and is from his descendants that the community of Sandy Island kind of came up. So, and so what's interesting is that it's another kind of perspective on a Gullah community that's a little bit different than the Sea Islands. So Gullah, specifically, there's a lot of definitions that get put out there about like what is Gullah, what is Gullah Geechee, what is the difference, the Gullah Geechee Nation. But the easiest way to think about it is being descendants of West African enslaved people who were brought here to this kind of region of the state, and not just South Carolina, but also extending up into North Carolina and down into Georgia and Florida. And these areas, specifically within kind of like the Sea Islands and then the coastal regions, those are the ones where there were more heavy concentration of like the West Africans who were enslaved there, specifically for rice cultivation a lot of times. Okay. And because of their knowledge of rice cultivation in Africa, bringing that over here and making this a profitable area within rice plantations. But it's also through their customs, their language, their music, all these things together, they kind of have blended together. They have their own language, which is the Gullah language. And all of that together is really kind of what makes this whole like cultural like region so like rich with what they do with their foodways, all the things that kind of work together. And especially on these islands, what happens is they're so isolated from the outside world for different reasons. Like a lot of it's because, it's not easy to build a bridge. Yeah. So, if you think about what was Hilton Head like before the 1950s when the bridge was put there, it was very different than what it is like now as far as when a bridge is put there and development happens. So there's actually a really good documentary that was done about, I would say probably about 20 years ago called Saving Sandy Island. Okay. And it was done by SCETV. And you can actually find it online for free. And it tells the story of about, in the 90s, there was plans to build a bridge to Sandy Island.
Oh my God.
And about the folks, the people there, as well as other activists and things that worked together to make that not happen.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. I'll have to go watch that.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to learn more about some of the Gullah Geechee history and culture, I have a video where I went out and did a whole film on the Gullah Geechee festival out in St. Helena. So if you want to click on that, you can go watch that and you can get a lot more information. So we've got some incredible photographs here, but again, you guys are going to have to come in for yourself if you want to see these in person and you want to learn. And so far I've come to find out that one of the best things about the Morris Center is the folks who work here.
Oh.
And I mean, I'm having an incredible conversation here. And even the gentleman that greeted me when I came in, you could tell he was extremely enthusiastic about what you guys are doing here. And so it's not just about these 3 exhibits. There's always things coming and going and information and displays. And I know I've been in here before, and I think last time I was in here, there was something about the Gullah Geechee cuisine.
So coming up in 2025 in this space, we're going to have this exhibit that's called Linked.
Okay.
And like Linked, linked, like
Okay.
a chain is linked.
Oh, cool.
And this is an art exhibit by the artist Colin Quashie. Colin is based out of Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay.
And he has a collection of altered photographs that he has put in this exhibit that tackle a lot of topics that deal with like the Black experience, especially around enslavement, plantation stories, and stuff like that, and how that ties also in with like South Carolina history and other things. So it's hard to explain, but it's going to be an interesting exhibit because, so for example, I will say this, like one of the images is a very iconic image of Harriet Tubman, this photograph of her. And instead of wearing like normal like glasses, she has glasses that look like shackles that would have been used on slaves. And so it's kind of taking these images and putting them together and causing you to have kind of a conversation about it. For example, he's got an exhibit or a piece is called Plantation Wedding. And so he has another kind of historical image that probably people have seen before of an enslaved family in front of a cabin.
Wow.
And that's in the background. And then the foreground, he's got a 1950s cake topper, like a wedding cake topper of like a bride and a groom, and talking about a plantation wedding and what that means. So it's an interesting kind of conversation that he's having with how also a lot of these things get reckoned, especially when you're looking back at the historical context of them and placing them in a modern day conversation of like, how do we deal with that societally?
Right.
Yeah, we are definitely dedicated to having tough conversations when we need to, and we don't shy away from things. We also are very much, believe in telling multiple perspectives on stories. And so we're excited about having this exhibit and the different programming we'll be able to have around that exhibit. And so that will open January 11th. We got a grant from South Arts to bring that exhibit here, and then for Colin Quashie to come and do some programming here with our community. Nice. So we're excited about that, and that will be up for a whole year of 2025. And when the Catawba pottery exhibit closes, we're going to have an exhibit about Fort Mott, which was a fort that was a Revolutionary fort up in the Calhoun County region of the state. So it's kind of like more Midlands. But it'll be a way for us to, like I mentioned earlier, we're doing more field trips with our 4th graders, and they learn a lot about Revolutionary War and Civil War history, and how it pertains to South Carolina too. So we're excited about having some more exhibits that tie into that for the students to come and visit when they come for their field trips. So we actually are going to have our next training course coming up in October. So we're right around the corner. We're going to be doing a training the entire month of October. We are building up our docent core of people because, we're still very much a very new museum, but this program for us is Fuel the Mind 4th grade field trip initiative that we are starting with all this. We got grants from the Institute for Museum and Library Services. We got grants from other like local grantors to help support this program. And so with us bringing in these students, we need docents for that. And so, we're going to be offering more frequent training. So if you missed the October 2024 training, stay tuned. I'm sure there's going to be one coming up in the spring of 2025 because we're going to constantly be looking to build that group of people so that we can be able to accommodate the number of people, the students we want to bring into the building. What I would love to leave people with is our programming is very robust here at the museum. We have a lot of things going on towards the end of this year in 2024. Also ways that you can support the museum. So for example, we're having a fundraiser right now called Fill the Tank, to kind of tie into our little gas station theming. And so we have different ways that you can support us through buying tickets to some of our fundraising programs, as well as we have a popcorn sale coming up in mid-October and a Viking cruise raffle coming up at the end of the year in November and December. So all those things, along with our programming that we have at the museum that ties into local history as well as our exhibits, can be found on our website, morrisheritagecenter.org. You can find Fill the Tank there. You can sign up to be a docent there. You can find all of our programs that you can buy tickets for. And we also have a lot of programming that we offer for a suggested $5 donation as well. I think it's easy to just say, oh, it's so beautiful down here. And it really is. Like the landscape is beautiful. The marshes, seeing the water, the coast, all of that ties into what makes the Lowcountry so appealing to people to visit and to live, but is to really discover the communities, the people, the history. It's so rich in culture here, and just learning about like your surroundings is very important. So I always say, whenever you move to this area, just come by, like visit us at the Moore Center, go to some of the other museums that are up in Beaufort, that are in, Hilton Head, or even down in Savannah. We have such great cultural organizations here that can teach you about this area. So I think that, I think it's beautiful, yes, to look at the surroundings, but it's also cool to learn about the history behind it.
Awesome. Well, Kaylee, thank you so much. And I did pop in kind of unannounced, so you took so much time with me, and I really, really appreciate it.
Well, we're glad to have you. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you. All right, guys, thanks for staying till the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed touring the Morris Center and learning a little bit more about the South Carolina culture and history. Of course, if I can help you find your Lowcountry lifestyle, give me a call, send me an email, shoot me a text, or you can even book a Zoom call, all in the description below. And if you want to stay up to date with the latest and greatest happening here, be sure and like, subscribe, and tap that bell for notifications so you'll be the first to know every time I drop a new video. It's been a pleasure spending time with you today. I look forward to hopefully meeting you in person at some point, but if not, I will at least see you on the next video.